fake guns, everything we needed. But we didn't stop for costumes that day. We were on a gerbil mission. We bought a little gerbil cage with an exercise wheel, a bag of cedar chips, and some gerbil food. When we got home, Goebbels was lying at the bottom of the fishbowl, dead. "Oh," Mom said with a catch in her throat that meant tears were only seconds away. "Oh no! Why? Why?" I poked at Goebbels' stiff little legs with a straw. "Maybe the Flanagans poisoned him before he escaped," I said. "They probably fed him sweet and low to see if it would cause cancer, and it worked." "We'll have to bury him," Mom said. "We'll have a funeral." She picked him up and cupped him in her hand. Then she started to cry. "We're moving next week. We'll have to leave him behind. Who will tend his tiny grave?" If other people had been around, I would have been mortified. Actually, no one else was around, and I was still mortified. "Mom, please," I said. "We knew him for 2 or 3 hours, tops." "Poor Peaches," she sobbed. "Poor little Peaches." I once had a cat named Iggy, who died when I was 12. The night after he died, a huge water bug skittered across the kitchen floor of our old house in Austin. The bug's zigzaggy gallop looked like Iggy's, and my grief-numbed body flushed with hope and gratitude. He was back. For a split second, I was sure that bug was Iggy reincarnated, come back to live with me again. I didn't care that he was a water bug, as long as I could have my Iggy, whatever form he took. Then Dad squashed him. The water bug, I mean. And that hope turned acid and dissolved. I felt I'd lost Iggy yet again. But I was wrong. The water bug wasn't Iggy. Iggy wasn't coming back, not in any form. I repeated those words to myself over and over until I stopped seeing him in every fly, every moth, every mouse, and accepted it. I learned my lesson. By now, Mom should have learned this lesson too. No amount of wishing will bring back the dead. "His name wasn't Peaches," I said. "He was probably old. How long do gerbils live anyway? A few weeks? A year?" "Oh!" Mom cried. "You're heartless." She put the gerbil's body back in the fishbowl and stared at me hard. "You're not a girl," she told me. "You're a robot." The sobs returned then, the kind that shake your whole body. She melted onto the kitchen floor in a puddle of tears and lilac cologne. Maybe I am a robot, I thought. Am I? I knocked on my belly. It didn't clang, the way a robot's belly should. Far from it. But that assumed a robot was always made of tin or steel or some other clangy metal. By now, it seemed to me, scientists should have invented a robot material that felt and sounded more like human flesh, or at least that wouldn't clang. Meanwhile, there was Mom, still crouched in her pool of lilac-scented tears. What is she so upset about? I wondered. It couldn't be the gerbil. She'd been crying a lot even before we found him. It had to be the move. But we'd already moved 1,000 times. It felt like 1,000 times, anyway. And it had never seemed to bother her before. I was the one who hated moving, until I finally got used to it. I learned not to get too attached to anything. I stopped thinking of the houses we lived in as my house, or the street we lived on as our street, or my friends as my friends. Not that I had so many. We moved for Dad. Most professors stay at one university, but Dad was always looking for more grant money or smarter students or more kowtowing from his colleagues. So we moved from Iowa City to Madison to Austin to Ithaca. Up next, Baltimore. Johns Hopkins, the holy grail of pre-med students and biology professors like Dad. I'd have to start my senior year of high school in a new city at a small private school where all the other kids had known each other since they were 3, and you didn't see me crying. So what was Mom's problem? Ithaca was freezing.